Fans of Showtime's The Shy, welcome to another Pmnm sports and entertainment video. I'm the host here, Wood. Just wanted to jump in today and give a recap on this week's episode. Looks like the name of it is Past Due. It's the third episode, season 2. And how you liking the show? Two quick questions. Where is Sonia Son or Sonia Song from The Wire? Brandon's mom on the Shy. Where is she? Interestingly, second question, where is Q? So it's like I didn't see any reports, leading into the season that Sonia Song would not be returning. And then last week on the boxing side, she was actually the narrator. She was the voiceover for the women's bout a couple of weeks or 2 Saturdays ago with Clarissa Shields and Christina Hammer, which was a monumental event for Showtime Network. And I never saw any mention of Sonia Song not returning for this season. So that's a little mystery. They did mention her this week. Grady, her husband, was talking with Brandon and mentioned that she just couldn't live in the house any longer and she wasn't in Chicago at this point in time. So it leaves a door open that maybe she returns in the second half of the season, but a little disappointing for her not to be around. But her character was we'll come back to that. What happened to Q? Q is a problem solver. He's a boss. He was a guy who has a code to him and was pro order, in terms of maintaining order in the streets. And I think they alluded to the fact that he crossed the wrong line last year in the way that he handled getting rid of Trice, which was a personal matter for him. But then also maybe the way that the situation was handled with the guns or the big bag of guns that he turned in. I didn't understand all of that from this new guy who lives in the penthouse, who runs the streets. But he mentioned something about Q did something wrong, and it sounds like Q will not be returning. I should have looked his name up, the actor's name. But I thought him, the actor, and the character Q provided a certain structure or hierarchy to the show that's now missing. And this other guy, I guess, is meant to fill the gap. I just got a message, sorry. So that was 2 questions that's jumping out to me. There is no Rotten Tomatoes score for season 2. It did finish at 87% on Rotten Tomatoes and then 75% for us regular viewers of the show. The 87 is for the critics. Is anybody watching the show? Are there any good fans? Are there any diehard The Shy fans out here? I really haven't seen a buzz online, so I'm starting to wonder about how invested I should really get into this show, this season, and my optimism for the show moving forward. Although Lena Waithe is doing everything, the creator is doing everything. So who knows? Urban AIM shows seem to struggle with staying power and being greenlit, and that's the thing here. In comparison to Power, which is all about extravagance, it's sexy, it's a guilty pleasure, it's slick, it's all kind of people to root for, some people to root against, but it's got great characters, although I don't rock with the show anymore, and the actors. The Shy is like a mom and pop show, or it's just a smaller scaled, it's real life, sort of, but it's dealing with some completely other things that I just don't know if it's sexy enough. But let's get into the episode. Past Due. The rebrand is going on for Ronnie. Ronnie, what I was just mentioning with, if you compare, Ronnie, a principal character, to my man on Power, Ghost. Ronnie he's not going to be a sex symbol. His character to this point has been despicable You can't root for the guy. He killed this 16 or 17-year-old kid. He doesn't seem to be in control of anything. He's not a hustler. He's not slick. He's not a character with a bunch of lessons that he says in his dialogue. No quotables from him. He's just not a guy that we like. Some of us were probably rooting for him to be gone this season, where he would have, once he gave the confession last year, that maybe he would be in the penitentiary, and would have, and just would have been phased out of the show. But he seems to be a guy who we're going to see for a while. And at least now we know why he's a POS, piece of excrement. Now we're at least they have taken the time to show us that once he was a younger man with his life ahead of him. He took in this young kid off the street after coming home from the war, which is where he has some after effects from that experience. And then we saw Tracy again this episode. We did get reintroduced to Tracy. But we understand that by and large, he's like he is because of economics, and trying to make it and things not working out for him. So I've been hard and critical on this brother the last 12 or 13 episodes because he's trash. He's a trash character. But, he is trying to do things and protect his mom. And he does have some moral compass. He didn't want to do certain things to get out of jail. He didn't want to, sully the name of Coogie with the lawyer. But in the end, if it was going to be him or Coogie, he chose him. So now he's out this episode, and we'll see what happens with him. He's back on the street, returns to the neighborhood, and then I think the show kind of ended. Looking at some other storylines that's going on. If we take a look at Brandon, another guy. Brandon constantly struggles. He's another guy that seems to be unable to get ahead, to be unable to get on his feet, to catch a break, to outthink his challenges. But he is a good guy. He is a good guy. And, he's trying to make it work with his girlfriend and, play his role in that situation. And again, he's another guy. He's where he is because of economics, his upbringing. And, he did some things in terms of finishing, the cooking school or the culinary school. But everything else is just like he's chasing stuff episode to episode. Bills piling up. This week he gets some good money. He gets a bump in doing these funeral meals after doing the funeral in the second episode. So for Junior, word travels around the hood, and he gets a call to go prepare the food or provide the food for a pimp who has passed away. But of course, it's never a happy ending with any scene for Brandon. So of course, after he does this cooking and feeds everybody at the cookout, the pimp calls him over. He said it was going to be $1,500. I guess the pimp gives him $700 and gives him a bag of weed and says you should be able to get at least $800 for this. That'll make up the difference. Of course, he goes back in the truck, or maybe he learned this before he went and talked to the pimp. But a burner in the inside the truck, the food truck, is out. So now he has to get that repaired. The good thing here with Brandon in this episode is that we run into his cousin, who is an eccentric character who does a couple of different things, but mainly is always encouraging and reassuring and enlightening Brandon. And he talks him into going in and talking his way into participating in this event called the Aftertaste for students who graduated from the culinary school. And it's a money prize in that. So hopefully Brandon wins this $5,000 for this contest, and he's able to get ahead a little bit. But I'm sure enough he'll either get jacked for the money, or something will happen with his plate or his final dish. It's gonna be something that sets the brother back. Like he said, 2 steps forward and 3 steps back is just the way he lives his life. But it was good to see him reconnect with his cousin, and it was good to see him reconnect with Kevin. And they talked through some things. He was able to. I told you the way that he's handled this case and the authorities and Detective Cruz, with his brother, in my opinion, was terrible. But he did write this letter for the judge that was supposed to go to court when Ronnie was trying to be released. I don't think it was the right type of letter that needed to be written, but Cruz did come and ask his mother to do it. Since Mom's isn't around, he did it. And I'm not sure. Obviously, it didn't accomplish much because Ronnie was still released due to a technicality. Kevin and Maisha, what's going on with Kevin right now is quite a few things. But he's basically just coming of age. And it seems like with Maisha, he's learning maybe how well he has it. Or, he's learning how to be empathetic. He's learning how to treat people well whom you wouldn't normally. They just looked at her as a fat girl, an obese girl from the beginning. And, didn't have the best hair, not the best clothes. She lives in the projects or something. She's at home raising like 4 or 5 babies of her own, although she's still, an early teen or whatever. And Kevin is getting to witness this. And instead of just judging and interacting with Maisha as this fat girl that nobody likes, it's a private moment for him to walk in her shoes and understand, there's real value in everybody. And he sees that she's not this fat girl with bad hair and terrible clothes, and she's not a bully. She has a lot of weight on her shoulders. There's a lot of people depending on her. And she could be much worse than what she is, but it's still a subtleness or it's still a way that she approaches the situations and interacts with others, and she has some heart. She's not completely terrible as a person. So I like what I'm seeing in Kevin. Getting away from Papa and Jake a little bit. Jake is kind of learning the early stages of hustling and following in Reg's shoes. Cruz and Ronnie's confession. Detective Cruz. I've had some issues with the integrity or the writing and the how on point the writing is and how they handle the development of the story or how the story unfolds as we watch week to week. And in my opinion right here is another weakness, is one of the weaknesses of The Chi. And maybe why it hasn't caught on. I mentioned last week that it's difficult to spend, so much time in the lives of teenage kids and then to also deal with some of the adults in the show. It seems like the audience is too wide for this show to really survive. Somebody's going to be unhappy with where you spend the time in this show, possibly. Like, we still don't have a Tony Soprano in this show. Like, who are we tuning in for every week? What one individual are we tuning in and loving his life? Like, everybody on here, you wouldn't want to be none of these people, in my opinion. You wouldn't want to be none of them, any of them. But here it is. Cruz made a horrible mistake of getting this confession while Ronnie's blood level was 2 or 3 times the legal limit. I don't think that would have happened, to be honest with you. He's a veteran guy. He does everything by the book. And like Detective Toussaint said, why wouldn't you have brought him in and let him sleep it off? Now, he may have been rushing to get the confession. He may have been rushing because he was willing to do it. And of course, if you let him get in a better state, maybe he reneges on it and doesn't, give you the confession. So I understand that side of it. But I really don't think that this guy, somebody else would have been in charge. This same black woman that he's reporting to, who's now, her neck is also on the line. she would have had some say in this situation. And maybe I don't even remember all of the details of that episode, but some sergeant or lieutenant or somebody above him would have been there, or an older detective or a higher ranking detective. Somebody would have argued against doing this confession. But anyway, that's what the lawyer attacks as the weakness in the case against Ronnie, and gets it overturned or thrown out, and that releases Ronnie to the street. Detective Toussaint is out working the neighborhood. I do like her. I am a fan of hers, and what, you know, the entire, or the balance of the season could hold for her character. She is pretty sharp. The last thing is Tiff. Huge fan of Tiff. She's a little loud and obnoxious and manipulative, and it's never good to keep a child from a father, especially a guy who's trying. But this was kind of hinting at the fact that, and then it looked like she was alone. She wouldn't let Emmett into the apartment, so it looked like she might be single, and maybe she was acting out for a reason. And so we find out in this episode that we find out a lot, But Tiff, no, she's a very lovely young actress. She's a very attractive sister, and they reunite in a big way, in a buck wild way. So that was pretty interesting to see where that goes moving forward. The other thing here, the last thing, is another weakness of the show. Last episode, Emmett and Amir get together on how they're going to package this the hair and start selling hair weave as their hustle. And you really thought Emmett was going to step up and overcome his hurdle. He's another guy always struggling, always needing help, always in a bad spot. But then he never has money, but he's buying expensive sneakers and all this stuff. So it's kind of some contradiction there. But then he says on this episode he hadn't bought any sneakers in either 3 weeks or 3 months or something. But he did make his first child support payment. But like I said, last week they introduced that they might get this hustle off the ground with the hair for weaves and whatnot. And you're looking forward to how that comes together. But then this week, you don't even see Amir in the whole episode, I don't believe. If it was just a passing scene. But, because Ronnie did go into the store. But, so Sonny, the owner of Sonny's Chicken, kind of a mentor, father figure to Emmett. He collapses in the store and is going to be down for a while. And Emmett convinces the family to allow him to run things until Sonny can get back on his feet. And this is how thoughtful and quick on his feet that Emmett is. He talks the family into, well, let me run it. There's no sense in the place being out of business and shut down temporarily. You need it to have money coming in light of what you might have to be dealing with his medical bills or his medical situation. So they do that. But of course, we learn that he only has chicken, no side items. He now has to lead the crew. He has to manage the operation and, keeping the stoves or the deep fryers going, order chicken, manage the day-to-day operations. So again, he's a guy that's very resourceful and has some hustle in him, but it's always for naught. So, but we'll see. Maybe there's some payoff here. Not a whole lot went on with Reg this episode. Like I said, the brother that's living in the penthouse in downtown Chicago, we didn't see him again. But in the trailer for next episode, it looks like it's going to cook a little hotter. And it looks like Detective Toussaint might close in on gaining some ground with her suspect. We'll see. Like I said, I'm watching week to week, and I'm even watching it Sunday morning with Game of Thrones on Sunday night. Billions is on Sunday night, but you can get up and watch it on demand early Sunday to get it out of the way. and continue to support the show. So again, my name is Wood. If you've rocked with me to this point, I appreciate it so much. I would have done a live stream and looked for some interaction with viewers and whatnot, but I won't even go into all of that. This was the quickest way to do it, was on my phone. So again, if you like anything that I've laid out there or the way that I'm discussing these series, please hit that like button. Become a subscriber and check out some of the recaps on other shows. And, keep an eye out. If you do the notification, and I do happen to do a live stream to recap an episode of any of the shows that I'm talking about, then you can make it into the chat and we can interact. Until next time, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great.